So, welcome. Again, my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. Thanks for the patience there while I got everything ready. I was working on setting up the blog post, but I ran into a technical issue, and for some reason it wasn't publishing. I have it set up so I have this workflow, and it connects to other flows, and it all depended on this one flow, and it wasn't working. So then when that one flow didn't work, everything else didn't work. So I had to go in and manually update it. It's silly. I didn't have a check or a cross-check, a backup system. So I think I'm going to have to work on a new flow to get that, to avoid that from happening. I'm really enjoying just getting it down. Over the past 24 days, I've had a lot of fun going live, doing the recordings, getting this all set up, going through all these motions. It's been a lot, way more than I thought it was going to be, but it's been very enjoyable, and I've had fun through this process. I've learned a lot, but I need to make it a little more seamless, a little more streamlined. And I think I'm going to need to kick it up a notch, not in complexity, but just in the sake of making it easier. Okay, so if you are new here, let me know in the comments. If you're watching, say hello. Let me know what your thoughts are on this. I enjoy talking about mental health, about wellness, about addiction, about recovery. We talk about everything under the sun on this show. And I've got these show notes set up, and that's what I was referring to earlier. I have the show notes also linked to a messenger bot, so I can have them sent out to you and as well post to the blog. But where I was saving the data wasn't publishing from there, and that's what threw me off. So I'm sorry if I'm running a little bit late today, but I wanted to stay committed to going live and sharing with you today's topic. And if you haven't been around, or this is the first time you're watching, we're going over a whole month, but we're spending the whole month talking about step one. So there's 12 steps in the program, and we have 12 months. So through the whole month of January, we're going to dive deep into step one. And by the time we finish up, and we are rounding up to the end of the month here, we got 1 week left, we would have covered quite a few different things underneath step one. And when we start up in February, we're going to jump into February and see what happens with February. Now, I do look forward to the different topics, but I've mainly been playing this by ear, seeing how much engagement I'm getting, seeing what you guys are responding to. I wake up every week, almost every day, or there's a message or there's a notification, and hey, Kitty, there's a message or notification from you, my audience, letting me know what the previous, you might have seen an episode from last week or last month or just yesterday, and how much that message meant to you. So it does mean a lot that you spend the time, you watch the show, number one, you hang out, you comment, you put the hearts, you put the stars, you do the shares. All of those things mean a lot to me, but the messages you share, I think, are astounding. Like, they mean, it's a great way to start my day, is what I'll say. All right, so step one, I have a show title, and today's show title was about resentments. And I kind of played it off of like two different parts. I had this resentment where, like, imagine we have a resentment in one space of our life, and there's also the sense of gratitude. So resentment, I'll just talk about those two real quick. So when it comes to resentment is something that can, in my addiction, in the heat of my addiction, at the height when things were the worst, I don't want to say like it just crept up overnight. No, it was building over time. It didn't come 0 to 60 out of nowhere. My resentments compiled on top of each other to the point that, like, life became unmanageable. There was times where these resentments I would hold would be so far-fetched. They would be so, I don't want to say superstitious, but they didn't have a place in my life. I was coming up with reasons to be upset. I was justifying my frustration, my anger, and my negativity And when I'm spending more time focused on trying to justify those things, I'm pouring a lot of effort into that. It's consuming more of me than I want to give. But I did it for so long. And I don't know if I came to like a habit, like that was my ritual. That was normal. Like my new normal was like this ultimate low. And when you're slowly getting lower and lower, you don't notice it. It's like the frog that's boiling in the water. Like it's always been this warm. It's always been this hot. And then in my mind, like, oh, I've always felt this way. This is the normal tolerance of resentment. And what I didn't draw attention to and what I avoided doing was looking at what part of me was feeling that way, like identifying, yes, I have this resentment. Yes, I'm feeling it in this moment, but it doesn't mean that I need to give it. I don't want to say I don't want to breathe it into life because it already exists because I'm recognizing it, but I also don't want to turn the blinders on. Like I don't want to just shut the world out and then put my head in the sand and try and live life. Like that's what we call the white knuckling. If I white knuckle my way through life, that's not really living. That's barely skidding by. And so resentments for me, it played a large part of that. It played a large part of holding me back, like setting me down lower than what I needed, like lower than what life is about. Life is it's not meant to live in a world of anger, frustration, resentment, negativity. None of these, they are in life, yes, but I don't need to be focusing my life around creating more of it. And when I put my attention on resentment, when I put that much attention on resentment, when I'm feeding more of my efforts into that than I am in something else, something creatively, something much more, I don't want to say divine, but something much more fulfilling. Because resentment only builds more resentment. Like when they say an eye for an eye, like if I just hand out a bowl full of resentment to you, I'm going to get a bowl full of resentment back to me. You know, if I show up ready for my day and I'm harboring all these resentments, I can't start, that's not a healthy way to start my day. And if, those are the actions of the past leading up to that. So there's resentments that exist, and this is just me diving in on it. And I don't know if this makes sense to you. Let me know if this connects with you, and if it doesn't, let me know as well. But when it comes to resentments, there's the resentments that actions that have taken place, and when they come up and they happen, and we hold on to them for so long, that's when I said it was habitual. It was something that I'd conditioned myself to do for so long. These were always the resentments I had. I was always angry at that guy. I was always upset at my parents. I was always disappointed in my friends. Like these were these ideas that I'd fed on for so long that I believed them. Yes, they might have held weight at one point, but it's an unhealthy belief to the point where there was this train wreck of a past, and resentments were the ones that like paving the way, and it never went to a place that was good. And so when resentments have held tight for so long, I've got this past full of resentment. And then there's another aspect to throw into the mix, and this is where we'll talk about pride, where if I have been angry, upset, or if I've been disappointed at something, I've believed in it for so long, I almost don't want to let it go, because I'm almost as if I'm holding on to it to the point where I've got so much invested in this that I don't want to let it go, even though I know it's not right. It's not fulfilling to me. It's not fulfilling to others. It's not fulfilling to the greater good. But I'm putting more of my effort, my life, my time around it. And so there's that prideful aspect of I don't want to let it go, even though it doesn't hold a place in my life. And so there's that past resentment. Another kind of resentment would be something that happens right now. Something takes place right in front of me, and it would be easy for me to go 0 to 60. It'd be easy for me to write that off or label it or dismiss it. It'd be easy for me to want to go to that place again where where a resentment comes from taking that emotion and then stuffing that emotion inside. I don't know about you, if you can relate to this or not, but if I'm not expressing myself, if I'm not sharing my thoughts, my feelings, be it if it's a positive and negative, if it's a question or if it's doubt, or if I'm not feeling in a place where, I don't say I'm not feeling safe, but if I've got a sensation that I'm not sharing, and if I'm instead just taking that and holding it in, I'm bottling it up. And when I bottle it up, there's that sense of pressure, there's that sense of angst. And when that angst, one tiny little resentment isn't going to break the bank. But it's when you take a million of those tiny little resentments. Remember when I said there's that past? There's that wake of destruction, there's that wake of resentments that doesn't hold a place in her life. And yet when you have a lifetime of them, when you have a day filled with them, when you have a month, a year, a decade filled with nothing but resentments, and that's not saying you're going to be angry, frustrated, resentful of everything, but it's when you hold an unhealthy amount of it for so long, that pressure builds up to the point that it only takes one little tiny thing to come by, and then out of nowhere, there's this eruption. Out of nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere, goes 0 to 60. And then that's the unsafe part. That's where resentment isn't something that showed up at 0 to 60, like I just shared. It's more of, it's been quietly building over time. And as the pressure keeps rising, my emotions keep getting stuffed more and more and further down. I mean, you can even hear it in my voice as I crunch down. It's not meant, emotions are not meant to be stuffed. Emotions are meant to be shared. Be it positive emotions or negative emotions. They're all emotions. There's no wrong emotion. Well, I guess the wrong emotion would be like to not want to share it. That resentfulness. But if I'm stuffing my emotions, and I did, I stuffed my emotions for so long, and there's no good that came from stuffing my emotions, holding those resentments. The longer I held on to those things, the longer I didn't express myself, the more emotions I stuffed, the more I don't want to say my soul was being eaten away, but I wasn't able to grow spiritually. I wasn't able to blossom or bloom or expand my world to a third dimension outside of my resentment. If all I'm ever focusing on is just this one thing, I can only fail by, I'm setting myself up for failure if all I ever do is look for resentments. And I'm not saying put on rose-colored glasses and experience the world that way, because even then, that's not really living life either. You want to live life on life's terms. That's what I strive to do every day. Some days are harder than others. It doesn't mean that bad things are going to happen. It just means that when things happen, I don't let that take up space. I don't let that hold me back. Yeah, things are not always going to work out my way, but I'm thankful that I have the opportunity to attach a new meaning to certain events. I'm not saying I'm just going to avoid those, but what I am saying is there's a higher meaning for me. There's a higher plan in place, and it includes something much more than holding on to resentment. I heard this story one time where if you take, let's say I had a really bad injury, and there's like a gash on my arm, and it ended up causing me a lot of pain. And then with that pain, I would be, let's say I looked after that. Like I tended the wound. So I had this big gash on my arm, and I tended the wound, and I looked after it, and it was all bundled up in bandages, and it's got the polysporin on it. Like it's got everything it needs. Over time, that will heal. And then if it's healthy and it's healed, and let's say I walk over and I bump into it, on the desk or on the counter or something, because it's healed and healthy, it's just going to be like a bump. That's all it is. I just bumped into it. But it's not going to stop me. It's not going to be a deal breaker. Now, on the other side, let's take that same cut, that same wound, and let's imagine I didn't tend to it. I didn't look after it. And when I didn't look after it, now I come along, and let's not even say I bump into it. Let's not even say I bumped into a counter or a table or anything. Instead, let's say I take a little cat hair and I put the cat hair on the gaping wound that's not been looked after. I put the cat hair on it. You can imagine what my reaction would be. I'd be 0 to 60. I would be, what are you doing? And then here, very similar, is the world of resentments. So I can fill my life with all these resentments. I can fill my life with these things that I'm not tending to, with these emotions I'm not looking after or expressing. I'm not growing spiritually. I'm not growing in values. And in fact, I'm settling. And that's where the pressure keeps growing. That's where the wound isn't getting better all by itself. So how do you solve that? Well, it's not something that can be dealt with overnight. But for me, one of the things that's helped me out, and this is what I have in the show notes. If you want the show notes, just type notes in the comments below. We'll have them sent out to you. That's if you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching over on YouTube, go ahead and visit the link down below, outstanding.video/notes, and we'll have them sent out to you. Or you can go to the blog, outstanding.video/blog, and then you can just see, the past month's show notes that I have there. And I've got all the videos there too. So it's a place where the videos and the notes exist together. But if you're watching the live or the replay, type notes in the comments on Facebook or on YouTube. Just go click on the link. It's always in the link below. But when it comes to jumping back to what's the solution, there is no one solution for anything. But what I found that's helped me out in my addiction is if I show up instead with looking for an opportunity for resentment, instead if I show up looking for an opportunity for gratitude. Because when it comes to gratitude and resentment, we said that at the beginning, they cannot exist in the same space together. In order for me to be grateful, I don't have time or the place or the space in my life, the capacity to have resentment grow. So if I'm filling my life with gratitude, yes. But then if a resentment comes along or an opportunity for resentment, if I remind myself what I'm grateful for, that I'm here and I'm healthy and I'm happy and I'm able to get through this, no matter how challenging it might be. You lose your job, you lose your girl, these trials and tribulations can show up, but it's not an opportunity for resentment, it's an opportunity for growth. Yes, there's things that don't always work out, but it doesn't mean I let them define me as a person. There's more to me than just resentment. There's more to me than just anger, frustration, negativity. I want to grow, I want to bloom or blossom. I want to have this outstanding life. In order for me to do that, I need to start my day off with gratitude. And when things don't work out my way, that doesn't mean I'm going to toss in the towel. It just means I'm going to look for an opportunity to be grateful. Okay, so with season 2, I also wanted to do something different. I also wanted to have an action of the day, and I wanted to have a gratitude of the day. Hold on, I'm just going to switch over so you can see. All right, so I'm just going to zoom in. So here's today's show notes. All right, so today's gratitude of the day is I'm going to be thankful for having the courage to face my resentments. This way I can better understand them, and it will bring me closer to being rid of them. And for today's action of the day is, today I will remind myself of a resentment I once had and appreciate what my life looks like without having that resentment. And then the next question is, are there any resentments that I'm holding on now that I could get rid of? Okay. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thanks for stopping by. It means the world to me that you're here. I appreciate that you show up and you spend your next 10 minutes hanging out with me, 20 minutes, whatever it is. But I wanted to thank you again for hanging out. Put the little hearts, the likes, the stars, put the shares in the comments and the reminders on. I look forward to seeing you in the future episode. In the meantime, you take care and have fun. Bye.